The Ultimate Spanish Conjugator Trainer. Today, el presente del indicativo. Part 1, Introduction. We're going to focus on stem changing verbs. And what are these verbs, these types of verbs? Well, let's have a look at this. You know that Spanish verbs have a root or stem and an ending. The ending is always, the infinitive ending is always AR, ER, or IR. For example, caminar, to walk, beber, to drink, abrir, to open. We can see that there's a first part, which is the stem, and then we have a second part, which is the infinitive ending. So as we saw in our previous lessons, when we need to conjugate a verb, we just drop the infinitive ending, that is to say the AR, ER, IR, and then we add a specific ending for each person to the stem of the verb. So in the present, this will look something like this. Caminar, I drop the infinitive ending to conjugate it, to put it in the present, for example, and then I add the specific ending. So this looks like yo camino, tú caminas, usted, él, ella camina, nosotros caminamos. Now, for people in Spain, or for people who are interested in studying the Spanish from Spain, this form is useful. For those interested more in like the Spanish of Latin America, this wouldn't be necessary. So I would just suggest that you skip this one. Vosotros camináis, ustedes ellos caminan. With beber, yo bebo, tú bebes, usted, él, ella bebe, nosotros bebemos, vosotros bebéis, ustedes, ellos beben. And abrir, abro, abres, abre, abrimos, abrís, abren. There's a slight change here in nosotros and vosotros, but other than that, it's kind of like the same. But what you can see here, these are all regular verbs, in that the stem doesn't change at all. You can see that this remains constant throughout all the conjugations. But today we are going to see some stem changing verbs. That is to say, some verbs that change the stem a little bit when they are conjugated in the present. And in general, these stem changing verbs fall into three categories. The first category refers to those verbs that change their stem from e to ie. For instance, if we look at this, pensar. Pensar is not a regular verb, so when I put it in the present, I think, I wouldn't say yo penso. In that case, we see that this e will change to ie. That's why we say yo pienso. So the ending is the regular conjugation, as you conjugate any verb in the present, same type of endings, but there is also a little change in the stem when you conjugate. And that's what stem changing verbs are all about. It's little changes in the stem when you conjugate these verbs. So for example, yo pienso, tú piensas, usted, él, ella piensa, but nosotros and vosotros usually are, well, they are always exceptions actually. So we don't say piensamos, we say pensamos, so this one remains constant, remains regular, let's say. Vosotros pensáis, same thing here, so these two remain unchanged. Ustedes, ellos piensan. So as we've seen here, the change is from e to ie. Now, there's another category, another group of verbs that change from e to i. For example, instead of saying yo pedo, we say yo pido. So the e has changed to I. Yo pido, tú pides, usted, él, ella pide, nosotros pedimos, vosotros pedís, ustedes, ellos piden. And there's another category of stem changing verbs in which the o is changed to ue. For example, the verb contar. So I don't say yo conto, yo say yo cuento. Tú cuentas. Usted, él, ella cuenta. Nosotros contamos. Vosotros contáis. Ustedes, ellos cuentan. And here what we'll see is a very quick overview of some common verbs that fall into each of these categories. Of course, we are going to work on this in more detail, so this is just for informative purposes. That all the verbs that you see here, for example, will have this change from e to ie. So instead of saying yo cerro, I would say yo cierro. In this case, all these verbs will follow this pattern. So instead of saying yo impedo, I would say yo impido. And the same here. Instead of saying yo conto, I would say yo cuento. And more details in the next video. And this is the end of this presentation. If you've understood everything that has been explained here, get ready for the next lesson.